TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, thousands of Palestinians rallied across the West Bank as their leader Mahmoud Abbas delivered a condemning speech of rejection to the American Peace Initiative at the United Nations Security Council. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reveals last night in an exclusive interview with Israel's domestic channel 20 that Israel was preparing the surprise of a lifetime for the Islamist Hamas organization in light of the continued rocket and balloon terrorism that is directed at Israel from the Gaza Strip. Battles between Turkish and Syrian forces intensify as the Russian-led offensive continues to push northward in Syria's war-torn northwestern Idlib province. Thousands of Palestinian Arabs rallied in multiple cities across the West Bank yesterday to express support for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who was set to deliver a message of rejection to the American Peace Initiative at a special meeting of the United Nations Security Council in New York. While the main rallies were held in a relatively orderly fashion, dozens of Palestinian youth sought to exacerbate the situation on the ground as violent riots erupted in several points of friction. During the rally that was held in the West Bank city of Ramallah, where the Palestinian Authority is headquartered, the demonstrators insisted that no one, not even US President Donald Trump, could dictate the future borders of their aspired state.
الشعب الفلسطيني هو الذي يقرر حدوده وأرضه، هذه أرضنا وهذا حقنا. ترامب وغير ترامب لا يملكوا أن يتنازلوا عن أي شبر من أراضينا لصالح الاحتلال. ما يقوم به ترامب هو أصلا مخالف للقوانين الدولية.
يعني ما ضلش حكي بعد اللي احنا شايفينه، يعني هاي موضوع صفقة القرن موضوع يعني مش لازم ينحكى فيه بعد اليوم أتوقع إن شاء الله، والوجود الناس الموجودة هي دليل قوي على شو رفض الفلسطينيين لموضوع صفقة القرن.
Later in the day, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas appeared before the UN Security Council, where he did not manage to hide his anger over Washington's peace proposal. The Palestinian leader insisted that the so-called deal of the century was effectively a gift granted to Israel by the American leadership. And while waving a copy of a map that the US plan envisions for a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians, Abbas sought to ridicule the suggested lands that were carved out for the future Palestinian state as a depiction of a fragmented Swiss cheese.
ويكفي لرفضها من قبلنا أنها تخرج القدس الشرقية من السيادة الفلسطينية. يكفي هذا. وتحول شعبنا ووطننا إلى تجمعات سكنية ممزقة دون سيطرة على الأرض والحدود والمياه والأجواء، وتلغي قضية اللاجئين، وستؤدي حتماً إلى تدمير الأسس التي قامت عليها العملية السلمية، وإلى التنصل من الاتفاقيات الموقعة المستندة لرؤية حل الدولتين على حدود 67، وهو الأمر الذي لن يجلب الأمن ولا السلام للمنطقة، ولهذا فإننا لن نقبل بها وسنواجه تطبيقها على أرض الواقع. هذه خلاصة المشروع الذي قدم لنا، وهذه الدولة التي سيعطونها لنا هي الجبنة السويسرية، سويس تشيز. من يقبل بكم أن تكون دولته هكذا؟
It is important to mention that prior to the meeting, the Palestinian leadership drafted a resolution that aimed to condemn the United States and its peace plan. While they initially had hoped to have the Security Council vote on the resolution, efforts to drum up international support, primarily in Europe, blatantly failed. According to a Palestinian official who spoke on condition of anonymity, even after they submitted a toned-down version of the draft resolution, which didn't include an explicit condemnation of the so-called deal of the century, the Palestinian delegation had a hard time achieving the necessary majority to pass the resolution. He revealed that out of 14 countries, the Palestinians managed to garner support from 5 member states alone. In light of that development, the Palestinian leadership decided to avoid humiliation and pull the draft resolution. Meanwhile, in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reacted to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's speech at the United Nations Security Council, stressing that the so-called deal of the century is the best plan that exists for the Middle East. Speaking at the Likud election rally in the northern city of Bat Yam, Netanyahu reiterated his belief that for once, the American initiative recognizes the true reality on the ground.
זו גבינה שוויצרית. אז אני רוצה להגיד לאבו מאזן, זו לא גבינה שוויצרית, זו תוכנית הכי טובה שיש למזרח התיכון ולמדינת ישראל וגם לפלסטינים. התוכנית הכי טובה שיכולה להיות, כי היא מכירה במציאות ובזכויות של עם ישראל שאתה מסרב להכיר בשניהם כל הזמן. זו התוכנית.
Turning to Israel's southern front, where Islamist Palestinians launched yet another rocket from the Gaza Strip toward the southern communities of the Jewish state last night, alongside dozens of balloons rigged with explosives that were sent sailing into Israeli territory. A rocket alert was activated in the IDF Homefront Command's phone application for open areas only. The incoming projectile exploded shortly thereafter in an open field in the Sha'ar HaNegev Regional Council. Thankfully, no injuries or damage were reported. In spite of the continued Palestinian rocket fire and balloon terrorism, the Israeli military did not immediately respond. Nevertheless, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu revealed last night in an exclusive interview with Israel's domestic channel 20 that Israel was preparing the surprise of a lifetime for the Islamist Hamas organization.
אנחנו מכינים לחמאס את הפתעת חייו. אם הם לא יתעשתו, לא רק ברקטות, את זה אנחנו מורידים להם, אבל אם הם לא יתעשתו ויפסיקו גם את הבלונים, זה רק שאלה של זמן שנפעיל את ההפתעה הזאת. אני לא אחשוף אותה כאן, אבל היא שונה מכל מה שהיה.
Turning to Israel's northern neighbor Syria, where the Syrian army alongside Iranian-backed militias and Russian air support continue to push northward in the war-torn country's northwestern Idlib province, after jihadist rebels backed by Turkish artillery managed to recapture the strategic village of Al-Nayrab. Their success was short-lived as the Russian-led offensive devastated the jihadists, who once again were forced to retreat. Turkey's failure to deter the Syrian regime from regaining its lost territories prompted a decision by Ankara authorities to deploy additional troops to the volatile territory. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan leveled yet another threat towards Syria and its Russian patrons this morning, vowing to launch a wide-scale operation against regime forces unless they retreat from the northern district of Idlib, in accordance with the arrangement that was agreed upon in the Russian resort city of Sochi by Ankara, Tehran, and Moscow.
Şubat ayı sonuna kadar rejimi Soçi muhtırası sınırları dışına, yani gözlem noktalarımızın gerisine çıkartmakta kararlıyız. Bunun için karada ve havada her ne gerekiyorsa çekinmeden, tereddüt etmeden, hiçbir oyalamaya meydan vermeden bunu yapacağız.
In light of the growing number of Turkish casualties with latest attacks by Syrian forces claiming the lives of 5 Turkish soldiers, President Erdogan threatened that any future injury to Ankara's forces, the latest escalation will exacerbate into an all-out war.
Gözlem noktalarındaki veya diğer yerlerdeki askerlerimize en küçük bir zarar gelmesi halinde bugünden itibaren İdlib'le ve Soçi muhtırası sınırlarıyla bağlı kalmadan rejim güçlerini her yerde vuracağımızı buradan ilan ediyorum.
The United States envoy for Syria, James Jeffrey, arrived in Ankara for talks with his Turkish counterparts over the latest developments in northwestern Syria. Speaking to local reporters upon arrival, the American envoy stressed Washington's support for their NATO ally Turkey in their battle against the Assad regime and Russia.
Bizim müttefiğimiz Türkiye'nin askerler bir tehdit karşı karşıya. Bu tehdit Rusya ve Asad hükümetten geliyor. Hala şehitimiz var. Başınız sağ olsun. Biz bugün Ankara'ya gelip Türk hükümet ile durum gözden geçirmek istiyoruz ve mümkün olduğu kadar destek vermek istiyoruz.
Meanwhile, Turkish and Russian delegations met in both Ankara and Moscow in efforts to reach a solution for the latest escalation in Syria. While neither side seems to back down from their declared demands, both sides have affirmed their desire to re-implement the arrangements that were reached under the Sochi Agreement.
В настоящий момент наиболее важным мы считаем выполнение все-таки сочинских договоренностей. Это было и остается очень важным. Ну и, конечно, пресечение любой террористической активности, которая направлена против вооруженных сил Сирии и против российских военных объектов. Мы считаем подобные вылазки из Идлиба недопустимыми.
It is important to mention that some 700,000 civilians have reportedly fled the fighting in Idlib towards Syria's border with Turkey, where the Turkish government, by means of financial contribution of 40 million euros from Germany, erected several camps to host the displaced refugees. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem as well as the peace and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have a Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.